evening from New York. The Senate historian has already issued his verdict on the fact he's had a long time to research. Al Franken is now the first former comedian to be elected to the United States Senate. Thus, can I issue our punchline that we've had a long time to research? You mean professional comedian. Our fifth story on the countdown. Coleman concedes Franken is a senator. It only took 238 days, and the final vote tally was 5-0. Nearly 6 months to the day after his term expired, the former senator, Republican of Minnesota, Norm Coleman, accepting he has lost, telling reporters that further litigation would damage the unity of his state. All 5 justices of the Supreme Court of Minnesota having ruled on the accuracy and the integrity of the 2008 vote count. Quoting from their decision, Al Franken received the highest number of votes legally cast and is entitled to receive the certificate of election as United States Senator from Minnesota, affirmed. This afternoon, ex-Senator Coleman gracious in defeat.
I just had a conversation with Al Franken congratulating him on his victory. And I told him it's the best job that he'll ever had, representing the people of the state of Minnesota in the United States Senate. Ours is a government of laws, not men and women. The Supreme Court of Minnesota has spoken. I respect its decision, and I will abide by its result. It's time for Minnesotans to come together under the leaders it has chosen and move forward. And I join all Minnesotans in congratulating our newest United States Senator, Al Franken.
In a statement, the Republican governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty, saying he would sign the election certificate and do it today. There's no rush, really, even after the 8 months. A spokesman for the Democratic leader of the Senate, Harry Reid, saying the earliest Franken could be seated is next week because the Senate is out of session now for the July 4th holiday. President Obama calling Mr. Franken earlier tonight to congratulate him, having issued a statement earlier today in which he said he's looking forward to working with the junior senator from Minnesota. At an early evening news conference, Franken, still officially senator-elect, saying that he is looking forward to getting started, revealing that he expects to be joining the Judiciary Committee, among other posts, and offering more details about his conversation with the former senator.
It was a very gracious call, I must say. He said it was a very hard-fought campaign. I said Norm, it couldn't have been closer. And I said to him, that Franny and I can only imagine what this is like for him and his family. And he just said this is going to be the best job you'll ever have. I hope it's the best job I ever had. Yes, I think it will be.
Let's turn now to our own Jonathan Alter, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. Good evening, John.
Hi, Keith.
They fought everything else. Why are the Republicans dropping it here?
Well, in Minnesota, they're really sick of this, and it's actually a negative to keep it going as long as they have. So it was bad politics for not just for Coleman, who might want to run for governor, but for Pawlenty and everybody else to let this drag on any longer. There's been a lot of misunderstanding about Al Franken. I'm a little biased because he's been a friend for a long time, but one thing he didn't like to talk about in the campaign, because it doesn't get you a lot of votes, he was a math jock at Harvard. He's a smart guy. He's going to be a good, effective senator, and when the comedian stuff wears off, which it will fairly quickly, I think people will find that he's quite good.
Also, he was honest about being a comedian as opposed to the 99 people he now joins in the Senate. Right. Again, the Republican angle on this, though, was there also a monetary consideration? They have spent somewhere between $1 million and $2 million on the recount. That is presumably money coming out of the midterms. Did they get anything for it? Did they just say, okay, here's where we cut our losses if we get to this point at the Supreme Court, especially if it's 5-zip?
Yeah, it was clear a few months ago that this was going to be the end of the road. You had a lot of Republicans from Minnesota, and I talked to some of them, who were saying privately 6 months ago that Coleman should not be pursuing this, that he should get out gracefully in his own interest. He didn't take their advice. It was basically Norm Coleman against the entire Republican establishment there, and he knew that this was as far as he could take it.
60 votes. Filibuster-proof, supermajority. Sounds wonderful, sounds dreamy. I would use the word dreamy to describe this. However, these are Democrats we're talking about, and it would seem to me there would be a possibility if they had 75 votes, they'd still find some way to screw up that advantage. Is this really a milestone or not?
It is a milestone, but I think for some reasons that people don't quite get. They go, well, but with these reconciliation, tactics, can't they really pass things with 51 votes? And the answer to that is technically yes, but practically no. They really do need 60 votes. Will it be hard to keep them all in line? Do they have to keep Bob Byrd healthy enough to vote and Ted Kennedy to vote? Yes. But they do have more discipline than they used to, and they want to put health care through with 60 votes, not ram it through with 51. On energy, the way the deal works, they have to have 60 votes in order to get to pass the bill that's already passed the House on energy, the first real energy policy we've ever had in this country. So I do think you're going to see a little bit more discipline on the Senate side than people expect in terms of getting a final bill. But they're going to argue a lot. The Democrats are going to argue a lot about the details. So the big question is, will the Democrats let special interests have their way too much in the final version of both of these landmark pieces of legislation?
Bonkers. And there is one, it's not a complete loss for the GOP because they do get one thing, if nothing else, out of this. They now have the Democrats are the world domination party meme to run against, correct?
They have been using that already.
But, I mean, but now they can point to 60.
Say, look,
it's an even number. It's easy for their constituents to understand.
There is no evading responsibility and accountability by the Democrats. And so the big issue is going to be in the midterms and in 2012 is not going to be, you know, how many votes do they have in the Senate? It's, did the economy get any better? And so the Democrats will be judged by their record.
Jonathan Alter of MSNBC and Newsweek, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Keith.